Get 6 months of local news for just $2. You get unlimited access to the news and information you need to stay connected to your community. Visit inforum.com/subscribe to get 6 months of local news for just $2.
You're listening to Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. I'm your host, Rob Port. If I sound distracted, it's because I've been busy covering this story all morning. I'm joined by my co-host, Chad Oban.
He's right of center, I'm left of center, both sides of the political spectrum.
I think it's cathartic. I think it's a necessary and proper debate. I'm glad we're having it.
And honestly, we have to do better.
Okay, I don't know why I'm getting blamed for this, right? Welcome to Plain Talk as we're gliding into the holiday season because, boy, the whole state got hit with an ice storm. That was something. It's always fun shoveling the driveway on a hockey rink. Makes me wish I knew how to skate. That's a lot of fun.
You know,
but,
Rob,
hey,
I felt a lot of sympathy for school superintendents yesterday. I was trying to figure out if I should close the office or not. And I think that is the worst decision. You can't win with that. The governor's already mad about it.
I'm not mad about it. I feel terrible for him because they make the call at the last possible minute because that's how you deal with weather. And then I would just tell every school superintendent to stay off of Facebook yesterday. It's amazing how many armchair quarterbacks there are for every single decision that's ever made.
You know, I saw that, and that was my reaction too. Was boy, am I glad I don't have to make the decision because there's no winning. I mean, you make it too early, and then the weather clears up, and then you're taking it like, oh, the kids could have gone to school, or you make it too late, and then it's like it's dangerous out there. What are you doing?
It's just like people relax. None of the it's tough. Like they make a call, they make it as late as possible because they want to. I mean, they don't want to just send everybody home. And I get it. It's
the weather changes quick here. I
especially yesterday when it was just a weird day yesterday when it's pouring down rain in December. I mean, it's a weird day.
I'm glad they called it off. Yeah, I mean, at least here in Minot, I was glad they called it off. Roads were bad. Anyway, hey, the voice you're hearing, Governor Kelly Armstrong, our guest today, coming on to talk about all sorts of things. Been very busy. Big one, Kelly, that I guess I wanted to talk to you off the top is we've heard the Trump administration announce a bailout or a package of aid for farmers. The state of North Dakota was ahead of that. We have our own I don't know what you want to call it, program in place. Initiative in place through the Bank of North Dakota to, help with some financing through these lean times. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it's looking like out there and what you're waiting for?
Well, now we're waiting for, it's $12 billion that was rolled out. We don't know exactly how that'll work. We'll wait and see. Once there is an implementation on that, we will hear from our ag community and reach out to the administration, tell them what we think works, tell them what we think if they can change some of that. From our standpoint, it's, the Bank of North Dakota is, and what we rolled out working with commodity groups and all of that isn't duplicative of this. It's $300 million for refinancing, $300 million for grain storage program, so people don't have to dump their crop at a terrible price just to run operating capital. So, we knew pretty early on whatever we did would not be duplicative of what the federal government does. But I've said since the beginning, this is the best of all the bad options right there for this, because the money from the federal government will help. The restructure, the $400 million from the bank will obviously help a lot. But we need markets. We need access to markets. Some of this is long-term shifting, and it's going to be interesting in the ag community, in the ag economy moving forward a little bit. So,
Kelly, what's the role tariffs play in all this stuff?
Tariffs are a lot chaotic. It's true. And it's part of the equation. And I think that's where it's at. I don't think anybody, including egg producers, would begrudge getting better trade deals, but it's been chaotic, and commodities react to that stuff, and it's different. And Chad, I've done this a bunch. Soybeans is China. That is the reality. And we went through this when I was running for Congress in 2018. And I guess I just view China a little differently after spending 6 years in Congress and learning a lot of things that I didn't know as just a lowly state senator in Western North Dakota about some of the things China does throughout every single economy, every single sector worldwide. And I mean, they're our biggest strategic adversary as we continue through the 21st century. And I can tell you in DC, I mean, there'll be a lot. I mean, obviously, tariffs and all of this stuff. There are not a lot of people that don't think we don't do a very good job of holding China accountable in lots of different spaces: Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals. And so when you deal with that, unfortunately, China's very good at making sure the retaliation part hurts the heartland.
Do you have any updates? I know the egg program kind of is still relatively new, so probably not a lot there. But a while back, when the government was still shut down, you had the furloughed workers program. Basically the same, some bridge loans until they got their money back. Do you have any updates? How many people took those loans?
So I
Are they
think
paid
one thing
back?
with that, when
Where
we
are we
rolled
at?
that out, we didn't know that they were going to pay military. Which was, I mean, and they did, and they paid military.
I'm glad it wasn't as needed.
Right.
Yeah, correct. We didn't use it as much. I will say we've used like over 30 million in the farm disaster. The grain storage disaster program was really heavily utilized both for permanent and temporary storage from the June and August storms. So that program worked. That program worked as we intended it to do. A lot of people were using it. A lot of people are already paying it back because a lot of that was insurance and making sure you could cash flow because you have supply chain issues. So there was less use of the federal program than we were probably anticipating with military personnel being forced to work and not getting paid. So that was good, but it was there, and I mean, it was utilized. I'm not entirely sure how much, but significantly less than it could have been, which is, I think, basically because the people who we were primarily targeting ended up getting paid through the shutdown.
Governor, last week you announced that we're going to be having a special session in January. Sounds like you want it to be super narrowly focused. I get nervous anytime the folks come back to Bismarck if it's not narrowly focused. So can you talk about what they're coming back to town to do, and if there's anything beyond that federal healthcare money that you want them to deal with?
So I'll answer the second question first. Probably not. It's still a month away. They voted down annual sessions this legislature. That debate will continue. Emergency sessions, in my mind, are for emergency sessions, are for things that are coming up. And so we'll see. When I call them back, they get to do whatever it is they decide they will do. I don't have control over it. As a former member, I understand that side of it. They have delayed bills. They can deal with that. There's always the chance there is a real emergency. I mean, there is really something that needs to be like. The problem is you've got a body of 94 House members and 47 senators, and there's what is necessary is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, and that's true. That's part of all of it. They're coming back because we're going to deliver somewhere between 100 and 150 million of rural healthcare transformation. I think there are 4 proposed law changes in order to help us get our scores up. We worked with obviously RHHS, worked very closely with CMS. The legislature put an interim committee together. That was really great. And there's a lot of collaboration here, and it's worked out. They put an interim committee together that was very large. And I was like, I don't know how we can do this as fast as we needed to, because we wanted their input, but we also had pretty strict deadlines. And it has worked way better, I think, than I thought it possibly could have when we started this. So we're excited about that.
There are 2 options for convening a special session. The governor can obviously call one, but then the legislature can call when they're allotted 80 days every 2 years, as we all know. They can also call themselves back. Why you call it instead of them? Because if they call it back, then they're still limited by their 80 days. You call them back, they're not limited. So
Yeah.
why? And I'm not saying either one way is right or one way is wrong.
I've had a ton of communication with Leader LaFleur, Leader Hogan, less so in ISTA, but I think that's just that. I mean, just a quirk. Simple majority. I call a special session back. We can pass things by simple majority. They call themselves back. There's a lot of different stuff that goes on. So in how the process works. And I'm not particularly worried about that. We talked a lot about it. There was no back and forth, but we feel like this is the best way to effectuate the policy changes we think to garner the most of that federal money.
Governor, another thing that's been in the press is the substantial bonuses to Rio staff. You're the chairman of the state investment board. I think it came to you guys and it was kicked to the emergency commission. Now it's back to you guys to make a determination on these very, very large bonuses. I will tell you, I don't think there should be bonuses unless they also have to give back money from their salary if they don't meet the benchmarks. So where are you at on these bonuses? How does this play out?
Okay, I'll deal with that first. No. That's not, I mean, how that works out. I don't love them. I didn't love them when I was there. But they were halfway through the fiscal year on this bonus structure when I got sworn in. So there's two different sides to this, Chad. There's one that I want to restructure it. I want to do it differently. We save one, and I think that is accurate. Two, we've been hiring for 10 months. We've had a complete, essentially, turnover in the leadership of Rio. So I can tell you our current bonus structure isn't super helpful for hiring. So it's not doing the recruitment part of that as much, and the retention.
How come? Well, how come it's not helpful?
I don't know, because people look for base pay. When you're hiring really talented people to do this work, and you're competing in a very finite universe of people who are capable of doing this work, the potential bonus structure is far less important to somebody applying for a job than the actual base pay of where that is. And so I have two things. One, I think we need to restructure it and revamp it quite significantly. And two, I am not pulling the rug out from a bunch of people who work for the state of North Dakota after they have had something in place for 6 months before I ever got here. I believe in handshakes. I believe deals are deals. I don't have to love it to know that we have to honor it. And I would also say this, and this is what gets lost in this. We pay our third party. I mean, when I got here, there was already a process in place to take more of this investing in-house instead of hiring outside people to do that. And we actually put the brakes on it because of how much turnover we've had in leadership. I didn't think we were ready to do it yet. We're also rewriting our entire governance structure of Rio, of the SIB. It's gotten so big, and over the course of time, our governing structure, our governing documents kind of look like a Rorschach test. And the bigger and the more money you have, the more simple your governing documents need to be in order to do this moving forward. And so this is all part of that. But we pay... I would rather have in-house people getting paid fairly and appropriately compared to their peers across the state than paying investment people bonuses that are, quite frankly, significantly higher than this. And I mean, we did come in really significantly ahead of the benchmark, and to the tune of like $192 million. And that is good for the people in North Dakota. But I don't love the 100% bonus structure. I've been clear. I said that when I was campaigning. I've said that to everybody on the Rio board, SIB board. I've done that, but we're not going to pull the rug out from our employees underneath. We're not going to, I mean, I won't do that. I'll take every political arrow there is to make sure I honor a deal that was made between them and the state of North Dakota.
Yeah, so Kelly, can I just one quick follow up?
Sure.
Was the bar too low to get these bonuses?
So I am not a benchmark guy. I can tell you in the same year, our friends to the south were high single digits below the benchmark, which was similar to ours. Like, we had a very good year. And by the way, our staff did that with an entire turnover in leadership. Right. You know, Jody Smith was the interim 6 weeks after I got sworn in. Like, so our team over there has done a really good job and essentially every CFO, CIO, I mean, with the entire leadership team being gone. So if you want to compare, I mean, none of this is apples to apples, Chad. I mean, we have a different, setup than South Dakota and a setup than everywhere else. But our neighbors to the south were 6% less. So
there's been a lot, and I like the idea of not pulling the rug out. I mean, if we've created an expectation with our employees, then we should deal with
I
them
wasn't
fairly.
here. I didn't vote on it. I wasn't
Right.
part of that discussion, but it was
We
in
can have a
place, and there is, I mean, and it was in
Yeah.
place, and the structure is pretty clear. There's only like 20% in the bone, and keep in mind, these guys are, I mean, they do math pretty well, right? We hope they do. I'm like, it's the wrong approach, and unfortunately, it's very political, which is why if I would have been here, I would have said, "Hey guys, 100% bonuses is going to be a real political problem every single
Yeah.
time it comes up."
Well, and I also don't want to have, when we're trying to hire public workers to work for the state of North Dakota, to have them feel like, you know, their expectations for their income or their bonuses is going to get waylaid by politics all the time. I think that's a dangerous thing. So if we make a commitment, we should stick to the commitment. We can always have a debate about what we do going forward, but we shouldn't be pulling the rug out from under people. That
But
being
the
said,
other
there's
answer is it's a different agency, right? Most agencies spend taxpayer money.
sure.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's
Yeah.
DPI, DOT,
It's a new sort of
HHS. You know,
I-
you have the Bank of North Dakota, you have the Land Board, you have SIB. I mean, their job is
Yeah.
to create a return. So they're unique in this space compared to other state agencies.
It's kind of a new category. I don't know, maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but it's a lot different than how our typical relationship between the state
And I
and employees.
and I think this is something that gets lost because it's the lowest common denominator. We're not comparing our salaries and bonus structures to Wall Street. We're comparing them to other public pension funds. Well, like other funds that are set up. I mean, we're not the only state that has a PERS fund in all of this. So, like, everybody says, if they want to make this money, they can go to Wall Street. We have a lot of people working for us at SIB that would make more money if they were doing this in New York or
But they don't want to live in New York. They want to live in North Dakota.
we base our comps on other public entities, not on
Right.
not on Bear Stearns or or
But I think there's
Merrill
also a school of
Lynch.
thought where there was a big appetite. I mean, some of the people who are I think the loudest about wanting to bring these investments in-house and move away from the consultants or whatever, the outside investors are now upset about, and it's like, if you want to bring it in-house, then you have, I mean, there's certain things we have to do to make that possible. I think something, some sort of incentive
Is it
program, I think
billions
is
and
just a part of-
billions and
Yeah.
billions of dollars. It's paying for my property tax relief that's coming out. Chad wants it to pay for school lunches. Like, this is like this is real money that
Yeah.
we utilize the earnings on this to do good things for the state of North Dakota.
I do have now I actually want to get to my question now that we've diverged so many times. There is a lot of, we talked a little bit about politics in this process. There is a lot of politics around our state's investments right now.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, we're seeing fights over open records, we're seeing fights over how the money's invested. And the thing that gives me trepidation, because on one hand, obviously I'm a member of the media, so I want things to be transparent. I love open records. On the other hand, I am really worried that we are, and by the way, I really like some of the stuff we're doing in state. We're going to invest in the state. We're going to find, we've had some controversies like that with the Wonder Fund and some things.
Sure.
And I'm worried because on one hand, it's like I'm enthusiastic about those things. I want them to happen. On the other, I am very concerned that it's going to become so political. We're going to hurt ourselves with these investments that, to your point, I mean, we want the legacy fund to do all sorts of things. We want we want our pensions to be whole. There's a lot of things we want to try to accomplish. If we don't have good returns on our investments, we can't accomplish them. And I'm worried that politics are going to, are you concerned about this too? I don't know if
I always worry about politics. I'll tell you, there's a couple things I learned that I didn't particularly know when I got sworn in. The leadership has turned over at SIB 3 times in the last decade, like basically an entire flip of leadership. And this is nobody's fault, right? When we started the legacy fund, when we started this stuff, our overall investment portfolio was pretty small. And over time, as it has grown, we have piecemealed together the governing documents and how we actually function as a board, who is accountable, who can sign off, whether it's the director of the board, right? We have these subcommittees, we have all of that. So our first task was getting a permanent director in. And then, quite frankly, our second task, and we've been working on it for the last 8 months, by the way, hired a consultant to come in, is to streamline and make our organizational documents actually workable. Again, billions and billions and billions of dollars. We need our governing documents to be clearly defined as who can vote to obligate state money, who can do these things, what it has to go to the board level, what has to be, and again, I'm serious. I don't blame anybody. I just have an approach to this stuff that I'm like, the more complicated your investments, the more simple the definition of roles should be. So we have really taken that on. We're going to get that done. We're obviously building this website out that the legislature passed. That will help tremendously with transparency. But if you want micro-timed, real-time markets on whether you are investing in the Philippines on Tuesday, July 17th, that is like, that's not how this really works. And you can politicize that stuff very quickly.
Kelly, I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. In the last month or so, you found some money for Great Plains Food Bank during the confusion around SNAP. You also just announced a task force on homelessness, interagency task force on homelessness. Your family served Thanksgiving dinner at, I think, Ministry in the Margins or the Dream Center, one of those
Dream
places.
Center.
Dream Center. Can you talk about, that makes my liberal heart feel good, Kelly, all of these things. But can you talk about why those things seem to be sort of a priority for your administration, beyond just it's the right thing to do? But we haven't seen
I can give you two answers, Chad.
Okay.
My grandma, and I was a criminal defense attorney and a public defender for 10 years. My grandma probably has a lot of the reasons why I'm a criminal defense attorney. But you never know that stuff, just because I just think sometimes, by the way, this isn't a liberal or a conservative issue.
Right.
And it shouldn't be. I think sometimes we forget that every community in the country has a whole bunch of people that wake up every morning and the baseball bat that is called life cracks them across the head. And they're the people serving food in a diner, working behind a gas station counter. Sometimes they're sitting in your office right now, anywhere you're at. And if you don't recognize that, then you're not really the governor for everybody. And I want to be the governor for everybody. It doesn't mean that I also, this, I don't think throwing unlimited amounts of money at this stuff solves the problem. I think we have proven that. And I think sometimes we make it worse. But I also think we should have real conversations about what it means to take care of the people in your community that are the most vulnerable. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And quite frankly, it's something my wife and I actually really, really like to do. And we did this stuff long before we were involved in politics.
I love that Grandma Mert's legacy is still pushing you to do the right things.
Yeah. I would do it. This won't shock you. I do it very differently than she would.
Yes, yes.
It just seems so odd to me that things like that have become, I don't want to even say politicized or like one fits into an ideology, like working at a food bank fits into an ideology and the other doesn't. Like, I don't know what is ideological about, at least on a personal level, helping people. I mean, that just seems like a human thing, not a political
There's
thing.
not a single person who is volunteering at the Dream Center or who is coming in for a meal that cares if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Right. Not one.
Yeah.
Not a single person. They don't care. And our biggest thing when we do this stuff out of this office is I refuse to make it a photo op. I won't do it. I'm not going in there to take a picture and leave. I won't do it. My whole family was there. We helped the evening. Like, I'm not asking for a pat on the back. I'm just like, if we're going to be part of it, we're going to be present in the event and learn about it and talk to the people who are there and see if we can figure some of that stuff out.
Speaking of that, there were some questions, or I guess a statement by the President of the United States recently about Somali Americans. We have thousands of them in North Dakota. And I mean, basically they should go back to their country. He called Congresswoman Ilhan Omar garbage. I mean, juxtapose that with like your personal work helping people. Cause to me, I looked at those comments as shameful. But I don't, how do you feel about them? I mean, at a time where we're trying, I feel like we're trying to bring Americans together and that's just not helpful.
Yeah, I think kind of a pox on everybody's houses in this space. We've conflated legal immigration and illegal immigration in a way that has made this stuff. I don't like all of it. I don't like the anti-Semitism. I mean, you are starting to see online stuff that they were doing in Germany prior to World War II. Like, and it is mainstreaming in a place that I think is quite frankly really, really uh abhorrent. And I
I
will
just
just
saw
say,
this Nick Fuentes character, who is, I mean, like it or not, has a tremendous amount of influence, was just on Piers Morgan saying Hitler is cool,
yeah.
which is shocking to me. I mean, there was a time where saying that ended, I mean, it would end your professional life, would result in social ostracism, and it's just not happening anymore.
Yeah, because you can find 25 people online who agree with you. You used to go, if you said
Right.
that kind of crazy crap at your coffee group, you were no longer invited to your coffee group. Like, they're like, hey, dude,
Which, by the way,
like,
is a sort of canceling I'm in favor of.
correct. But by the way, I'm not saying government should censor any of this. You guys know how
No.
I feel about this. But I think, I used to get into, I did a lot of this stuff. I've always had a different viewpoint on some of this because of my background. And my point is you have 20 years of sanctuary city policy. You conflate legal, you conflate illegal. You have the pendulum that swings all the way back. And racism is a human failure. I've always hated the term institutional racism because institutions are bricks and computer screens and doors and all of that. At the end of the day, racism in any form is a human failure, and we should acknowledge that. And you don't have to target. If you are against illegal immigration, which is, by the way, I'm against illegal immigration. I'm married to a legal immigrant. Talk to legal immigrants about some of this stuff. And I would say it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter. It like if the illegal immigration piece of this is what the law is and how the law is being circumvented, sometimes with the help of city councils, county commissions, and all of that. The flip side to that is I would tell everybody to go to a naturalization ceremony. My wife was supposed to be at one yesterday in Fargo, but they canceled them, two of them in Fargo, and they canceled them because of the roads. Like, go to one and tell me, people who have to work for it sometimes care about it a lot more than people who are born into it.
I think that's certainly true. Uh, Governor, a year from now, you're going to be talking about your budget going into the next session. What's that process look like for your office? And I assume, we've seen a little dip in sales tax or some concern about stripper wells or, maybe a little less money coming from DC. What's your process look like? This is the first budget you have the full
Yeah.
runway to prepare?
So I told somebody the other day through a weird set of political circumstances, right? I got elected in 2012. Surge bill, prairie dog funding, oil patch, massive growth, dealing with some of those things. Got into Congress in 2018 during Mueller and Schiff's secret bunker and all of that, and then come back here. It's like I've never really got to show off my fiscal conservative chops because it's just never really been part of it. Our process has already started, Chad. I think WTI this morning was $58 or $58 oil. I think for the month of November, preliminary, we're 20 million under forecast. We'll roughly have somewhere north of 300 million in general fund at the end of the biennium. I've told my agencies that you guys have had 20 years of real substantial growth, and I wouldn't think you're going to have 21 years of real substantial growth. Trying to right size some of this stuff and figure out how we deliver the services we have with a little less. And we've already started the process. I'll just tell everybody, we have told everybody no new FTEs. Not your budget comes in with the FTEs you have. If you have to ask for one, you got to come into my office and beg for your supper as to why. And so holding FTEs flat, and that's with my cabinets. I mean, obviously there's other elected officials that do that, but we're already starting the process now. I don't think the general public really understands what our budget scenario could look like in a year and a half. It's not going to be dire. It's not going to be terrible.
Yeah,
But I do think.
Oh,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Sorry, no, Rob, you go.
Well, I think that the general public is still sort of operating under the what do you want to call it? maybe the feelings, the goodwill, the sentiments created by the oil boom era, where North Dakota just seemed to have. It was never true, but I think the public perception sometimes is, well, we have all this oil money. Why don't we do this, that, and the other thing? You still see it now, where everybody tap into the legacy fund, do this, do that. I support the ballot measure for school lunches. I don't love that it mentions the legacy fund at all.
I don't love that it's constitutional.
I don't love that either. I support the idea. I don't support those elements of the measure. But I guess my question is I've made this argument where I don't see dysfunction in Washington, D.C. ending anytime soon. I don't think even when Trump is gone out of office, it seems we have created a new norm where, Democrats punish red states, Republicans punish blue states, and nobody ever really gets good work done, or very little of it. And so I guess how does North Dakota prepare for a federal government that might not live up to the commitments that's already made and might be shutting off the tap to some other sorts of funding that the state might have hoped to get in the future?
Well, I think we could start with one thing, because you could say President Trump, President Biden, we're $37 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
About to be 38. Like, eventually that matters. And so how do we prepare? I mean, I don't think anybody thought we were going to be calling a special session for this reason when we were all pontificating and everybody was talking about it at the beginning of this year. But you prepare and you be ready and you make sure that you are taking care of what you do. Because the other thing is we've had 20 years of pretty significant growth in state government. I mean, we had 20 years of growth in North Dakota. And as somebody who was in the oil boom in Western North Dakota during the oil boom, when you grow that fast, there's no way to do it efficiently, right? When you're a town of Watford City, you can't expand your water. You have to rebuild the whole thing. And overnight, so I think there is a way to right size this stuff. I think there's a way to do this. And I think there's a way to recognize that we have to have more state autonomy and not necessarily rely on federal funds. I mean, one of the things is big margins in the House are just a thing of the past. Doesn't matter who's in charge.
So, Kelly, I have one last very important question. How was your hunting season?
I shot a very big deer last Saturday, and that was fun. And I had my buddy Jennings Levitt in the blind with me. And I've got to hunt a little more, quite a bit more than I was when I was in DC. So, and I've got to spend a lot of time with my dad and my son. So it's been great.
We haven't mentioned anything about our 3 baseball teams playing musical closers either. The Mets signed Devin Williams away from the Yankees. The Dodgers signed Edwin Diaz away from the Mets. And I don't know what the Yankees are going to do for closing next year. We'll probably find somebody off the scrap heap.
Edwin Diaz stings a little less because of Williams. It still stings a little bit.
All right.
I love the walk-up song. I can't wait to have a closer with a walk-up song. It's going to be so fun for the Dodgers.
I will tell you, Mariano Rivera, who may be the original closer with a walk-up song, when Enter Sandman would come on, holy cow, that was something. All right, Governor, we'll let you go.
Thanks, Governor.
I thought Ricky Vaughn was the original closer with the walk-up song. So,
yeah, that's true.
Tell me this: if Major League is on and that scene's coming on, you stop whatever you're doing, don't you?
Of course.
If Major League is on, period. It's like, all right, well, I know what I'm doing for the next 2 hours.
Yeah. So,
all right, thanks.
Fun thing
Governor.
about Major League is apparently Wesley Snipes can't throw a baseball. Weird stuff. I have this weird knowledge. Charlie Sheen was actually a really good athlete. He could do that stuff.
Big baseball fan too, in real life too.
But apparently, if you watch the movie, understanding that Wesley Snipes can't do anything about baseball and how they film him on there makes it a little more interesting.
Hey, Kelly, I've spent the last 2 minutes trying to get you off the air because your staff has been messaging us that you got to go.
All right, I got to go.
So you got to go. We'll see ya. Bye. Hey, Plain Talk listeners, have something to say? Call or text Plain Talk with your questions, comments, or headlines you want us to cover.
Just dial 701-587-3141. Leave us your message or shoot us a text with your name and location, and you could be featured on an upcoming show.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and I am in Jamestown.
Hey, Rob and Chad. My name's Tony. I live in Grand Forks.
That's 701-587-3141.
Call us, text us, vent, praise.
We want you in the conversation. Thanks for being part of the show.
Now let's get back to today's episode.
Well, welcome back. Just finished up with Governor Armstrong, and there's so much to talk to him about because there's so much going on. I thought the most I don't know, I thought the whole interview was good, but I thought the most informative part of that was the discussion about the State Investment Board. I do think, because I think he's right, and it's not this is not coming from a perspective of pointing fingers, but we have so much more money that we're handling in terms of investments these days. A lot of it due to the oil industry, although even the pensions have grown because, I mean, we were talking
pensions
about
are supposed to do.
Well, also the number of people in those pensions, because state government has grown. There's a lot more state employees in those pensions. So they're handling a lot more money. And the way I think maybe we've structured some of the management, some of the administration of it all was born of another era. And I think he's right, has become kind of a patchwork. And so that's something I hadn't really thought about. But that really makes a lot of sense to have some intentional reforms to governance. I'm interested in seeing what those are.
Well, I think the whole thing is sort of interesting. I mean, the more I learn about this bonus thing, the more I'm opposed to it. But I also agree with the governor that if these folks are working under those expectations, you can't pull the rug out from them now, right?
Well, right. We can have a debate about what we're going to do going forward.
Right.
But if we've made a commitment to them and they have an expectation, we shouldn't.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
we
it's my
shouldn't.
understanding that, Kelly said some of the folks have been there for like 10 months and they're benefiting from the last 3 years of investments. Like I think there's some stuff that we can look in. Do I want the legislature to be micromanaging what bonuses look like? Absolutely not. But also,
Well, I don't mind the legislature because they have to. I mean, if they're going to make an appropriation, I think they have to approve
the total
bonus
amount, but I don't know that I want them going up and saying this person gets this amount, this person gets this amount, that kind of.
No, I don't want that. No, not like in a committee where they're the ones doling out the bonuses. I think what you do is there's a program, they appropriate the money for it, and then obviously the executive branch administers it. That's the way it's supposed to work. The bigger concern about legislative micromanagement to me, and I say this even as somebody who's been critical of some of the ways the state has invested its money. Investing in Russia while Russia's invading Ukraine was terrible. Bad look. I'm glad we divested. Some of our Chinese investments, I mean, we're invested in some ways that aren't so great. And on the other hand, I am worried that I don't want to create a situation where, if Democrats get control of North Dakota government and we have to divest in oil industry or fossil fuel industry investments, or if Republicans are in charge, we have to divest from, anything that might be touching on the liberal media
or green energy or something
green energy,
like that.
whatever
Yeah.
it is. I think it's a dangerous thing if we open ourselves up to that. And I'm worried that we're starting to walk down that road in some ways.
But I also think the State Investment Board has such an important role in all of this. Again, just because the legislature isn't providing that oversight doesn't mean that the State Investment Board shouldn't be, and it's chaired by the governor. There's a reason why he put himself as the chair of that. Historically, it's been the lieutenant governor, and I think it's because Governor.
I think in the law, it's the governor. The governor can basically
Or his
have somebody
designee.
there, and usually it's the lieutenant governor who
Yeah.
gets put there.
But I think he's made this a priority for him personally and he's right. I mean, we want them to make as much money as possible so we can pay for school meals, we can pay for property taxes, we can pay for all these things. So we want to make sure that we're doing right. But they're big bonuses. And again, I would rather, but the problem is if you start bumping up all these folks' salary, then you end up with that, the prototypical article in the newspaper list with a headshot of what all these state employees make, and you still have people mad. And so,
Yeah. Well, no
Not the
matter how
best
much
of the
we pay
brightest.
them, the highest paid state officials will probably be college coaches. So
football coaches, yeah.
yeah, football or hockey coaches in our state.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is even that, I mean, if we're going to bring investment in house, then the people you're going to be competing with to hire some of these people, I mean, that's the way they pay the bonuses. I mean, we may have to emulate some of it. It doesn't mean we have to do everything or we have to treat it exactly like the private sector. But again, we've made the decision to bring some of this stuff in-house. Some of these expectations come with the sort of people who are in that labor pool. There's certain expectations they have in terms of compensation. So but there's a better way to do this. One of the governor's best qualities, I think one of his great strengths, are his instincts for this sort of thing. I think he is very, very good at discerning the sticking point, at discerning the rub. And I mean, just right there, like, it hadn't occurred to me that we really need a thorough review of the governance of this stuff. And I think that's probably right. Maybe even up to who sits on the state industrial, or on the state, the state investment board. I mean, maybe we need to look at some of this stuff.
Well, and he has just incredible political instincts. And one of the things, that's the reason why I asked him about the budget process, because I think he's starting to allude to a really, really tough budget cycle coming up next January. I mean, I do think that there's something, when he starts saying, I want to show my fiscal conservativeness, I don't think you start, sort of indicating what's coming down the line unless you see some stuff in the tea leaves that's going to force that. I think there's some real budget constraints coming to the state in terms of oil prices, in terms of big, beautiful bill, health and human services cuts. I think this next session, it's going to be a tough one for the legislature, that they're going to have to, for the first time, really take hard looks. And, somebody like me who cares
First time in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, we had that blip during Governor Dalrymple where the bottom kind of fell out.
Yeah,
of oil
where we
prices
do the
for
allotments for that
a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see that.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is I mean, again, the governor seems to see it coming. I mean, I think he's going to be ready to, we're going to have a new reality. And it's not a bad thing. We all knew that oil was going to plateau, and here we are. I mean, we've arrived.
He sees it coming. I'm worried the legislature doesn't.
Well,
and for sure the public doesn't. For sure the public is still, I mean, you alluded to it. We should be able to pay for this. We should be able to pay for this. We should be able to pay for this. We're living in a time where most North Dakotans are paying very little in taxes. I mean, very little in income taxes. Their property taxes are about to go down pretty dramatically.
Even as our state government has gotten a lot bigger.
Exactly right. And at some point, the public has an expectation that I'm not going to pay much and I'm going to get these incredible services. When that balances out, does that lead to sort of a political change?
Well, I think
it might be good for the far right, if we're being honest.
Well, and the thing about it is that was sort of the thinking behind the legacy fund in the first place, is that when we reached this point, legacy fund earnings could replace some of it and support it without having to just raise taxes. Now, I mean, generally, I think it's a dangerous thing to decouple the electorate from the cost of their government. I mean, I think when government gets bigger, we should pay more. When it gets smaller, we should pay less. Yeah. And when we start screwing with that relationship, we create some bad political outcomes, which could be some very far right people getting elected on the idea that they're going to cure the problem when in reality we're going to get something like Doge that is ineffectual and just creates chaos and problems.
Well, let's be clear. It's a really great time to be the party in power when you can give tax cuts and give more services, right? I mean, that's a really great political equation that the Republicans have been working under for the last several years. I mean, I think the Republican swing started before that with Schaefer and others, but when you're giving tax cuts and also providing more money and more free services to people, works really well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's what the federal government's been doing. It's why so many incumbents get elected over and over again, except that they've been doing it by financing it with debt. Yeah. Whereas in North Dakota, we had the money because we had oil. Yeah. Rick Berg was running for Congress, and he couldn't stop saying, we've just got to take the North Dakota way to Washington. And I just kept thinking, there's no oil in Washington, D.C. Like, are you going to find oil under the rotunda? And
that's the key.
Put up some oil, Derek. That's the North Dakota way, is get a bunch of oil revenue and spend it all.
Yeah. where you said like it shouldn't be surprising, but he avoided the Somali talk quite a bit. I mean, like I think that kind of stuff makes him uncomfortable. Again, when he's going down,
I
and
think he was
certain
clear
things,
about how he feels about it.
right?
I think he also understands the minefield that comes along with any sort of direct criticism of Donald Trump, and that's unfortunate. You can be critical of the governor of that if you want, but I think it's clear where his heart is
Yeah.
on that sort of thing. He's married to an
Okay.
immigrant,
Yeah, legal immigrant, right?
legal immigrant. Yeah.
So, and I also thought like the farm bailout stuff. You know, on one hand, we're talking about, well, the federal deficit is boom, boom, boom. But then we're also saying, okay, we're going to take this farm bailout that Donald Trump created for ourselves. And again, farmers and ranchers need this, but there's a reason why we have this deficit. It's because we're doing stupid things and then having to bail ourselves out for doing stupid things. It just gets a little bit tiresome to listen to conservatives talk about the deficit, but then at the same time support some of the stuff that this president's doing.
When we, when we talk about maybe some of the sticker shock that's coming for North Dakota voters, there's some sticker shock coming from American voters nationally. I mean, if we ever get to the point where we're actually, we have this sort of serious people in place, and right now I'm looking around, I don't see many of those in Washington. But if we ever get to the point where we're going to get serious about it, there's going to be sticker shock. Like we are going to have far less government and far higher taxes. That's just there's no other way to cure a 1.8 a budget deficit that's routinely in the neighborhood of $2 trillion.
And it doesn't matter if you elect a Democrat, a Republican, doesn't matter anything. It keeps going up. I mean, since the Clinton, Gingrich Clinton, right? I mean, and part of me thinks it's going to take split government and leaders that are serious on both sides.
Well, we'll split government and then also a willingness on both sides to say, even though we're divided, we still have to govern. I mean, I think say what you want about Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. I think at the end of the day, they ultimately understood what their jobs were, and their jobs was to get something done and to serve the public. I'm worried that in Washington, D.C. right now, they feel like their jobs are they feel like they're in the entertainment industry and have no obligation to ever come together. They're just their only obligation is to keep their base happy so they can get reelected.
And I would like to think post-Trump, whoever the next president is, we're going to have a change. I used to think that. I don't think that anymore. I just think this is the new politics.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's terrible for us.
Yeah.
Really, really terrible as a country.
I mean, yeah. So Gavin Newsom and Mike Johnson are going to come together when Gavin Newsom is president to solve the problems.
No, I think, I'm sure each side will invent all sorts of, crazy conspiracy theories about, and that's, I mentioned Nick Fuentes briefly, but it is remarkable how, we complain about the politics. Here I'm going to go on another blame the voters rant, but what do you say when, there was an incident at a Cinnabon. I wrote about it. You were recording this on Wednesday. I wrote about it in my column. And the thing about it is not that some rando who's working a Cinnabon hurled some racial slurs, because, we all know that people like that exist in our society. And they could get outed and you run into them. And it's not a good thing. I'm not happy about it. It's gross. But to me, what really made that a story worth paying attention to is that, the crowdfunding, like she's the victim. She used the N-word and other slurs. And listen, the couple that was recording her, they weren't being terribly nice either. Although in their defense, they were also being called racial slurs. So maybe they weren't in the mood to be polite. But what really made it is all the people who saw the woman spouting racial slurs and said, that is somebody, I want to make sure that she gets hundreds of thousands of dollars out of this. And it happened once before where the woman in a park in Minnesota, was it Rochester? I'm forgetting where. But
I think it was Rochester, yeah.
It was a similar situation where she used some racial slurs and all of a sudden she's the hero. What do you do with the public? I was just reading an article about this Candace Owens, who's a right-wing influencer. Millions of YouTube channels got like 1 billion views, millions of followers, making all sorts of money. And the stuff that she's spouting, I mean, she thinks that the president of France's wife was actually a man, and that the president, Macron, is actually her brother, and they're in this like incestuous transgender relationship, and he was elected due to a CIA program. I mean, there comes a point where you would hope people like, listen, you're not well. This is nonsense. But the thing is, she's got millions and millions of viewers. Alex Jones got the multi-billion-dollar liability he created by with the Sandy Hook hoax, where he claimed that the Sandy Hook school shooting didn't happen. He got sued. Multi-billion-dollar judgment on his head. He's still on the air. He's still broadcasting. He's still got an audience in the millions. What do you do? How do you say like we need to do better when so many in the public are fine with this? They want this.
Well, it's not that they're fine with it that's even the most concerning. What's going through that person's head that's like, I got an extra $100. I'm not going to go and give it to the food pantry. I'm not going to give it to my local school. I'm not going to give it to my local church. I'm going to give it to this woman who works at a Cinnabon, who I don't know. The only thing I know about her is that she's racist and sort of a jerk. I'm going to give her my money rather than giving it to all these other things. I mean, I would rather these people give money to politicians or interest groups or something. Like, there's something wrong with society that, like, I keep hearing, we're broken. Adults are broken in this country.
And I am
can't function.
I am all for giving people grace, giving people room to change, trying to support people who are changing, but that's not what I mean, I went and read the fundraising, I refused to link to it, but I went and read the fundraising page, and it wasn't about, let's help this person made a mistake, let's help her change, let's help her be better. It was, she's the victim. It was white women shouldn't have to be harassed by Somali or black, whatever, trolls, or I forget the exact verbiage, but it was like, she's the victim and she did nothing wrong. She did something. She used racial slurs.
Right.
I don't.
And what are we saying to society that you do this stuff and you get $100,000? Don't you create more of these situations?
I mean, in a completely different context, but also not all that different a context. I was reading about a public opinion poll where like Gen Z voters are fine with the Trump administration just using war powers against drug traffickers, even as he pardons a drug trafficker. They're fine with it. And I'm just like, there doesn't seem to be any intellectual rigor there. Like, we don't care that Congress is supposed to be the one that invokes war powers. Like, the president's not supposed to use them unless Congress authorizes them. And yet, I mean, does anybody in the public care about that sort of nuance anymore?
Well, and I was shocked at on your Facebook page, the amount of people on this, like, just gunning down people who are, supposedly bringing drugs somewhere, not even necessarily the United States, and all these people who are basically just saying, yeah, they deserved it. What are you talking about? In what world? I mean, I heard somebody use the analogy, so we're just going to start shooting people who are maybe selling drugs on the street? Police officer just goes and shoot somebody because
Senator Rand Paul pointed out that, like, in a high number of cases, these boats don't have drugs on them. Now, I don't know about the ones that are blown up. They're blown up now. Did they have drugs on them? I don't know. But the thing is, I mean, his point is, a lot of times when we board these vessels, we don't find anything. The government sometimes goes looking for stuff. It doesn't find a crime. But yet, well, we're deciding when we fire a missile, we do an airstrike, they're dead. What if they didn't have drugs? What if the government, now we just killed them, and they didn't have drugs, and the government made a mistake? And I would put this in another context. We're rounding people up off the street and just deporting them. And the Trump administration says they have the right to do that because they say illegal immigrants don't have the same rights as citizens do. And they're right to a point. The problem is, how do you establish as a legal question whether or not a person is a citizen? What if they say, listen, I have a visa or I have refugee status, and there's some dispute about it, but they don't get a day in court? Next thing you know, they're in a prison in a tin pot dictatorship in Central America.
Yeah. The fundamental right to due process is something that evidently in today's America, Trump folks don't believe in. If it's somebody of color, or if it's somebody who's maybe coming
They
from a
believe in
foreign
it when it's
country.
Trump.
Yeah, they believe when it's Trump. They believe it when it's their kids or their family or their business. But if it's some person who's maybe not from here, just take them off the streets. I mean, again, due process is supposed to be fundamental in the
You know,
United States.
it brings us back to something what we were talking about with the governor about how, like you made the point, like, well, working at a food pantry or something makes my liberal heart sing. And I know you didn't mean it this way, but that's not a liberal value or a conservative value. It's a human value.
It is.
And some of these things like due process and the First Amendment and all these constitutional protections that we have, and we can have a debate about what our policies are or shouldn't be. That's democracy. But we've just lost sight of caring about this. It's like if my guy's doing it, then it must be okay, and I don't really care about anything else.
In going back to the liberal heart singing,
And I wasn't being critical of you for saying it that way at all.
because it did. I mean, hopefully it makes conservative heart sing as well. But one of the things that I really liked about the governor's response to that was the work he's doing, and the first lady is doing a ton of this work in the state, is making sure these folks get seen, right? Because it's very easy to ignore the folks that are going to Ministry at the Margins or the Dream Center, other places to get their food. They're struggling with homelessness, that need their SNAP benefits. It's so easy to ignore those people. When the governor pays attention to it, it makes sure others pay attention to the problems. And kudos to him.
I think it's easy to dismiss them too, because you start looking down there. A lot of them probably have criminal records. A lot of times, I'm not saying they all do. I'm not saying they're criminals because they're on hard times, but a lot of times those things go hand in hand. And so it's easy to dismiss them. Well, they're an addict. They're criminal. We shouldn't have to care about them. They're not a priority. And yet they are. If we want them to stop being criminals, if we want them to stop suffering, they have to be. They have to be a priority. And, I think one of the most important things about this governor is, I mean, he brought it up himself, is his background in criminal defense. Like, it makes you understand. Sometimes I don't wonder why defense attorneys, I think, sometimes get they're like, oh, they're very liberal or very democratic. But you want to talk about people who don't trust the government? Talk to a defense attorney. Right. Who are dealing with some of the most awesome powers the government has and frequently sees them abused. So I think some of Kelly's conservatism comes from that background, whereas you think, oh, it makes him a bleeding heart. Not really. It makes him understand the limitations of government and the ways government can be abused and the way government can let people fall through the cracks.
But I also think him pointing out his grandmother who set up the North Dakota Mental Health Association,
Right.
and made sure from a very young age that Kelly Armstrong saw these people. They couldn't ignore these people. So I think it's all of it. Again, I think the First Lady has a lot to do with this. I think him having kids that have friends from all kinds of economic backgrounds, it's really important. We need to make sure these folks get seen. The governor and his family did a great thing on Thanksgiving.
We've kind of rambled in this part covering some of these things, but they've been on my mind a lot. And I think part of it is because it's the holiday season. And I love the holiday season. Even though I'm not spiritual myself, I love Christmas and Thanksgiving, and I like being with my family and doing all those things and trying to remember to be kind to other people and be generous and all those things. And it's caused me to reflect on where we are, not just nationally, but even right here in North Dakota, even some of my neighbors, where it's just there's nothing that matters but the tribe now. And it's such an ugly place for us to be. And it's had me feeling so disillusioned. And it's nice. I mean, there are people working in politics, working in public service who really care and are really trying to do the right thing. But the problem is they have to tiptoe around it sometimes because, I mean, doing the right thing is not what gets you rewarded in this political environment right now.
Especially in the conservative side of things with the Trump presidency, right? I mean, it is really, really difficult. We saw with Goring last week, and we saw it to a certain extent with Kelly today. I mean, they know what the right thing is. And the president with the Somali stuff, with the tariffs, it's a very, very difficult thing for them to, and it's not Trump, it's Trump supporters,
Yeah.
who are so like,
And I think in the moment too, because it's ascendant, but we could roll back the clock and look at some of the callousness that I think national Democrats felt for this part of the world, and some of the, it's just a bunch of backward rubes living out in flyover country, and who really cares about them? I mean, there's truth in that as well. And it's gotten worse. And right now, MEG is ascendant, and they're very visible, and it's they're the latest escalation, I guess. So it's easy to talk about them, but we've been on this path for generations now.
Yep.
And it's got to stop. And speaking of stopping, we should stop the show right here because we've used up all our time.
stop talking.
Stop talking. As we tried to get the governor to do during his, I was literally getting messages saying, well, he's got to go. He's got another interview. And it's like, I'm trying to get him off.
Hey, let him know, because we're
Yeah.
wrapping this thing up.
Yeah, there probably was someone standing in front of him, giving him hand signals like air traffic controller. Okay, we're gonna go. Remember, you can follow us on social media. We're not hard to find. Search for Plain Talk. Plain Talk ND is our tag or handle on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all the things. YouTube in particular. It's been a great place to go. I find you just finally subscribed to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I didn't even know I had an account on YouTube. So
Yeah. Your chat is not of the YouTube generation, I guess. No, I do like it. YouTube is pretty great. But you can find us there. Thank you so much for listening. Oh, by the way, coming up on the next show, we're going to, I guess, kind of continue on this theme. We're going to have Hamida Takane. She was a state representative from Fargo. She's not currently, she lost the last election, but she's also a member of the Somali community. And we're going to talk about some of these things, what's going on nationally and how it's impacting her and her community. We'll talk about that coming up on the next Plain Talk. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk again. That's it for today on Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. Plain Talk is a production of Forum Communications Company. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message at 701-587-3141. That's 701-587-3141. If you haven't subscribed to Plain Talk yet, you can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. For those of you who are already hooked, give us a rating or review. And don't forget to share or tell a friend. Special thanks to my co-host Chad Oban, and from myself and everyone at Plain Talk, thanks for listening.
I mean, that makes my liberal heart feel good, Kelly, all of these things.